You were on it early that, the Cardinals were looking at Steven Matz, and I thought that, and you repeated the quotes from John Mozeliak in your piece today when he described what they were looking for. And I smiled today reading your piece because I'm like, well, and the reason you brought that quote back is because, well, yeah, see, he's exactly what they wanted to get, and they got him. So there are other issues here, whether they should have been more ambitious, whether they should have gone into the deeper end. But look, for now, I'm just looking at it from, okay, is Steven Matz going to help the Cardinals? Is it a good addition? Will he be an asset? And I like his chances of checking all those boxes.
Yeah, he increases what I call, and I think you and I've had this discussion. I know that I've had it with Mozeliak, and he takes issue a little bit with it or a lot bit with it, depending on the day. But he adds to the certainty, right? Like last year during spring training, a big question was not the names that they had. They had a lot of names to throw at the pitching. They had depth there in names. They didn't have depth in certainty. They had depth in quantity and they had depth in hope, but they didn't have depth in certainty. And that's why, when we would talk or when we'd write, this is such a big question for them. And it's curious that they did not entertain more going after Odorizzi at the time, because it was like, well, there's an element of certainty. And Matz brings that. The price a bit higher, but, he brings a level of certainty to the depth. Now you go, okay, that's a guy who's coming off 150. He hasn't thrown more than 160 in his career before, but he's at least poised to do that. You have to be encouraged by what he did in the second half in the arduous American League East. You have to like the trends of how he featured his sinker, how efficient he was. You got to like the idea that he's going to be pitching against a far superior defense that he ever has before. If the Cardinals play the way that they did this past year defensively, you have to like all those things. And all of a sudden, then you're talking about a guy who, if they get 30 starts from him and they get 175 innings from him, that's that much less that they have to say, well, Hudson has to make this huge leap or Flaherty has to make this huge leap. Kim is the only other pitcher other than Adam Wainwright to throw 100 innings last year. Then he's gone. And then when you start going down the list, it's like, well, Miklasz is coming off injury. Hudson and Flaherty are coming back from injuries. Where is the certainty, kind of the glue that brings that rotation together so that it's not Jake Woodford that has to do that? So Jake Woodford is upside, so that Dakota Hudson is upside. And Matz brings a lot of that. If he can stay healthy is a question.
Yeah, and he's been pretty good putting that behind him. Although there's that kind of looming possibility is always out there.
Like, ugh. Yeah, some of those things about the bone spur and the nerve, and you go, okay, what kind of level of pre-treatment is this going to require?
It's going to be interesting, but. Look, at the risk of being, incredibly redundant, because we've all talked about it. Your story about the trade, you had, all the good information in there. This does seem no hype, no BS. This does seem to be a really good fit between what a team wants and the way a team is built, its defense and the kind of park it plays in. He just seems to slide right onto that template, and. That's another reason to like this, because they put some thought into it, and he really is, in terms of fit, it's a really good match.
Yeah, I agree. And now, in a lot of ways, in some ways he's kind of retro, right? Like, yep. I was looking at his numbers, going, man, this is the kind of move they would make to turn over to Dave Duncan and say, work your magic, man. Take an $11 million pitcher and get us a number 2 starter out of him. And I mean, the same thing kind of happened here. The Cardinals coming out of this past season, I mentioned this, like they had interest in Jay Happ, right? They've had a long time interest in him, and they would be open to bringing him back. But they wanted to see if there was more in this market. They wanted to see if there was, a higher tier, a younger pitcher who maybe could do more. For them. An upgrade was the phrase that I kept heard. A guy who might challenge if you go to a 3-man rotation or a 4-man rotation in the playoffs, who might challenge to be part of that. And you can really see that goal right there reflected in the image of Steven Matz, right down to being left-handed.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Derrick Goold is with us from the Post-Dispatch STL today. Follow him on Twitter, please, at DGoold, Goold. You should know that, but just in case. Okay, what do you think is next? Again, reading your piece today, which was valuable, I came away with a distinct impression that, in terms of any significance, they're probably done. They are done with their starting rotation, but that does not rule out it doesn't rule out a depth move. What do you think is next? And I'm not asking you to predict, and it doesn't have to be in any order. I mean, these guys move, they move quietly and very rarely tip their hand. And so what do you think would be next anyway, based on the clues you have, if any?
I know directly that they would like to add a lightning bolt of some type to the bullpen. I mean, they would like to find somebody who has, while not maybe a closer like Melanson's out there, right?
Right.
Not a guy like that who they'd have to pay for past saves, but maybe a guy who has been a closer elsewhere, is trying to bounce back, or maybe somebody who is really comfortable in that middle, that setup role, who understands the value of it and is paid accordingly, but isn't overpaid for the saves, because they got Giovanni Gallegos, but they'd like to find a pair for him, a complement for him. Somebody who can really be, part of a 1-2-3 equation with a candidate from inside being the third part of that. So they would like to do that, and they've had ongoing searches for that. It's a deeper pool. It runs the gamut. I mentioned Melanson. It also, you have Joe Kelly out there, a familiar name.
He's good. He's really good.
He's really good, and you know what he does? He throws a sinker, and when he's good, he throws strikes. So hey, sounds familiar, right?
It sure does.
There's Garcia out there. There's Archie Bradley out there. These are guys who have. There's Daniel Hudson, who has not as high a ground ball rate, but has intrigued him in the past. I mean, there's a great group of them out there, and you wonder how the Cardinals will try to play that leverage game that they like to play. Will they try to say take it or leave it before the world shuts down next week, or will they say, look, there's so many of them, and there's likely to be this, just this race for roles for relievers, that they might take that to their advantage and look at making that move sort of in that big rush. If spring training starts a little bit late and there's a signing period right before it.
The great Derrick Goold is with us here for a few more minutes on the Bernie Show, 590 The Fan KFNS. And, I've got to pause here before I forget to wish Derrick and his family a very happy Thanksgiving. And I know you guys are all looking forward to it. So it's that time of the year. I love Thanksgiving personally. I think it's probably my favorite holiday. So just an aside. Yeah, just an aside.
That's awesome.
I guess maybe the way I grew up, I don't want anyone to misinterpret this, take it the wrong way, because I'm not like bad mouthing my own family, not at all. But Christmas would usually turn into this big drama, because there are other people in the family, not my immediate family, but I come from a large Polish brood, with 1 million cousins, and my one aunt would have this massive Christmas thing every year, and there's always tension in the air. Whenever you get too many family people in the same room and the alcohol's flowing a little bit, you just know it's in some respects, it's probably not going to end all that well. So Thanksgiving was more restrained, more dignified. Anyway, except for me diving for the food, of course. Derrick Goold is with us. Hey, what about the bench? And I am so intrigued by this, and I know that's a kind of a broad question, but I love the idea, the stuff that Ali Marmol has talked about, and we've all talked about, where they're really going to look for, platoon possibilities and, maybe some different ideas on the lineup. And the thing of it is, I love the idea of platoons and adding, adding a left-handed bat here or, right-handed bat there, whatever. And I'm not doing a good job of explaining it, but the thing of it is, they already have so many guys under contract that they plan, to carry next year, especially the middle infield. I don't know where that guy fits. If he can hit and give him versatility, I guess he can fit anywhere. But I obviously am a confused soul on this, so try to clear my head on this. What do you think? How do they do
it? It's a good question. I mean, first of all, like, what do they have in play, right? DH in play, that's part of it. I think, if they had their druthers, they are constantly on the lookout for that left-handed bat, right? And can that left-handed bat play multiple positions? Is that person out there, or is that person some kind of combo of Tommy Edman and ultimately Nolan Gorman? Is that person Lars Nootbaar for the outfield? Most likely. I mean, you think about like where he fits in it, but there's room in there for them to try to find that left-handed bat from outside the organization, right?
Right.
It's the role, and I want to stress this, it's the role that Matt Carpenter had towards the end of this past year. If they can find that guy who would then start at times at DH and really do damage against the late game right-handed pitchers that they'll see, they've always kind of wondered when they could land that guy, and that they'd continue to do so. I think the bench is a fascinating spot. You kind of you outlined a lot of different elements to it. Yepez has really put himself in position to be there with the strong Arizona Fall League. Lars Nootbaar, please correct me if you disagree, but there's no reason for him to go back to AAA unless he just really has a difficult and is overwhelmed in spring training, which he shows no signs of being. Man, he's got a good look to him of a rising player that they're going to have to find playing time for. Really reminds me in a lot of ways of a left-handed Stephen Piscotty, in the sense that, Piscotty had that high ceiling that people thought, that kind of steadiness that he brought and they hoped would blossom and never quite did before the trade. Well, Nootbaar is going to get a chance to blossom. And I'm really intrigued by that. And then you have a Brendan Donovan who, has done well, hit, versatile, and you could think would really challenge Rondon for that spot on the on the bench. The Cardinals want to move on from Rondon.
I'm sorry, man, I was rude there.
No.
I like Donovan's progression through the minors, but also just if you break down his splits and just again the whole thing. It's not like he's like going to be this big, huge home run guy, but boy, does he seems to have some real hitting skill and kind of a wide array of skills that would make him a good fit. Getting on base a lot, certainly being probably at the top of the list. So that I agree with you there. And one other thing,
he's hit at every level, and he's got a real style about him as a hitter. That you go, man, that's a contact guy that plays. And you think about the matchups like you mentioned with Marmol, that gives him one more piece that he could move in mid-game, move out, for defense, or move around for defense, and that's kind of a lot of appeal. It
does, and I share everyone's enthusiasm for what's to come with Juan Yepez, and it would be kind of wild that if the Cardinals, in effect, eventually at some point next year settled on a all rookie DH platoon. Yepez
wouldn't that
and
be
Gorman.
Something?
That would be fun, man. It would be fun, right? I
guess it'd be fascinating. It'd be the playing time that Randy Arozarena never had because there wasn't that spot. You know what I mean? I'm not being flip.
No.
I'm being like
right.
That's what Randy Arozarena would have done because there was like such a question about his defense. But they were like, if they could get him at bats, at DH, they would have, and that would have been a fit. And look, and who knows what would have become of that? There's probably something along that way with Yepez, a guy who just mashes fastballs, has done what he's needed to do against the top pitching that he could face at the levels he's gone to, AAA and Arizona Fall League, and might be ready for that. I think I think it would be fascinating. I often wonder about like a DH who bats seventh, because does that say how good your other hitters are, that they also play a position, or does that say something about like your DH and that you could upgrade it? But yeah, I mean, I think it could be interesting to watch, and that it's a position that opens up everything for them. They could, you mentioned, could they aim higher for a starter? The answer is yes. They could have aimed higher for the starter. You talk about Stroman. Would they have gone twice as much to get him, or do they think they got a pitcher who's a better bang for the buck? Value always is the tiebreaker. They'll want value, not always like the best available player. They'll go for value. So, same kind of thing here with the DH. The value might be with those rookies.
No doubt about it. Derrick, it was a great conversation. I didn't mean to keep you so long, but, it's the most wonderful time of the year. I hope you get a little downtime. You get a little rest time here. I know you've grabbed a day here and there, but what's your schedule like? I hope it includes some rest.
I have another story to write tonight, and then I'm not sure if I mentioned this to y'all, but the deal, the physical isn't until this weekend, so there won't be anything finalized on the deal until after the holiday. I would imagine I'll write then, and write more the next day, and write more the next day, and chat and podcast, and then cover the end of baseball.
End of times.
Yeah. The snuff, the extinguishing. Someone's going to turn the pilot light off on the hot stove league, and I'll cover that. But in the meantime, I'm going to steal some hours here today and watch the new Hawkeye show on Disney Plus, and have some time with friends on Thanksgiving, and then hopefully get a chance to see my parents on Friday, and take advantage of the amazing pumpkin pie that my mom made.
Ooh, man, I'm envious there. Well, give my best to everyone, and it's great to be able to talk to you on the radio. I appreciate every time we do it very much. So I'll be reading you as always, man. But you're right. After December 1st, it's over. So anyway,
I'll be writing. Who knows what I'll be writing?
You'll find stuff,
but it'll be.
You're
be
clever.
Interesting.
You'll find stuff.
I've been called worse today. Thanks.
Take care, Derrick. We'll talk soon.
Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. That's our friend Derrick Goold. Love talking to him. Great guest to have on the night before Thanksgiving. And that's one thing about Matz too. The Cardinals didn't have to relinquish a draft pick to get him too, and they don't like to do that. So because the Blue Jays didn't issue a qualifying offer to him, and they thought they could get him on a multi-year deal. Sorry, I'm talking too fast. But I think the Blue Jays, I think a lot of teams were surprised, really. The Cardinals made a really aggressive bid. Now,
Mets sure were.
Huh?
The Mets sure were.
Yeah, they thought they were going to have him, Rock, huh? Is that the deal?
Cohen literally gets on Twitter and
I didn't know that.
This is me being
during the break.
Me being very bad at my job. I can't believe you didn't see him. Yeah, the owner of the Stephen Cohen flipped out a little bit about the Steven Matz news earlier this morning.
Oh, we if you find that, we can talk about it. I don't think I follow him on Twitter.
Here's the tweet right now. Okay. I'm not happy this morning. I've never seen such unprofessional behavior exhibited by a player's agent. I guess words and promises don't matter. That was tweeted by a billionaire at 7:51 a.m.
He just does't get it that what he does for a living that's made him tremendously wealthy, one of the wealthiest men in America. I guess, even though that business he's in can be quite cutthroat, it's just interesting that the business of baseball can be pretty rough too, and agents are playing one team against the other, and you give indications that well, gosh, we feel really good about this, and then you go in another direction. That's only been happening, I don't know, since the beginning of free agency. It's like nothing new, but yet a guy like Cohen, who I'm sure has pulled some deals on people that left them bitter in terms of like, well, that guy, he really surprised me here. I thought we were in on something, and where did he go? That kind of. It just amazed me that he becomes a big diaper baby now because Steven Matz and his agent decided St. Louis made a better offer, or they preferred to be there. Now he's a big diaper baby. Same guy that just makes all these deals. Even got the SEC, and I'm not talking about the football conference. Got the SEC investigating him and everything, But now he's a big diaper baby because an agent might have used him. Who knows? Might have used him as leverage to get a little more out of the Cardinals. Who knows? I just love that.
Icon Sports' Rod Martin is Steven Matz's agent, and he said he wouldn't get into a Twitter war, but he then did release a statement that was given to the media. We are aware of Mr. Cohen's tweet. It's unfortunate that he chose to take his frustrations to Twitter. I will not do the same, and instead will take the high road, which is consistent with both my character and the character of our client. Steven Matz grew up a Mets fan, loved his time there, and continues to invest in the New York City community through his efforts supporting New York's first responders. As a result of that, there was a strong pull to return to the Mets, but ultimately he made the decision he felt was best for him and his family. Steven is and always will be grateful to the Mets and Mets fans, but he now looks forward to his next chapter with the tremendous franchise in St. Louis.
I'm not sure why the Mets think they're so attractive to everybody.
They weren't even attractive to a general manager. I don't know why they think a player's trying to get there.
It's kind of a zoo. It really is, and I think the billionaire diaper baby is a big part of that. I mean, it's just kind of like stay away for now. I don't know. That's funny, though. Thanks for letting me know about that.
It's probably good for American sports as a whole that there's two different New York franchises being just held by a death grip by completely useless diaper baby owners. Just fantastic.
No doubt. No doubt about that.